What type of individual needs business funding and why?
What type of individual? Well, it's going to be anybody that is wanting to start a business, or even more preferably somebody that has a business. The average American that is in business, this is going to be perfect. I have another client who already knows a lot about business funding, maybe 75% of what it is and how it works, but that last 25% makes all the difference of getting approved for either a $5,000 card or a $25,000 card.
All right, we have a special guest in the studio today, personal friend as well too. His name is Cameron Gade. We're going to talk business funding today. I've had a little experience here in the past 45 days helping out a business partner of mine on some funding, and so we just want to ask him some questions today. And I hope we can learn some things, and I hope I continue to learn because business funding is fascinating. So. Welcome to the show, Cameron.
Yeah, glad to be here. Let's do it.
And so, let's kind of like jump into it. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit based on my history on business funding. And I don't know, it's because maybe I'm searching it on Google and on Instagram. I mean, it's flooding my social media with business funding,
How the algorithm works.
Yeah. And so let's just start from the beginning. What type of individual needs business funding and why? Let's start with that.
What type of individual? Well, it's going to be anybody that is wanting to start a business, or even more preferably somebody that has a business, more so small to small, medium-sized companies, not your, C-suite type companies, big companies. They're doing a whole different type of funding. They're looking for, hundreds of millions of dollars for their, what they have going on. But this is going to be more so for the average American that is in business. This is going to be perfect for them.
Okay. So then let's go in. Let's just say if you can think of a client here in the last 60 days. I like to use examples, right? So let's do that. So let's give me an example of somebody and kind of give me a background of their story too of business funding that you've helped out with somebody here in the last 60 days.
Definitely. So I do get a lot of trucking type businesses that reach out to me. So that's like logistics world, anything that is hauling cargo. I do get a lot of those types of clients reaching out, because their business is operated heavily with credit cards. I mean, just gas alone is thousands of dollars a month. Imagine driving a semi across the country, how much it costs to fill that up with today's gas prices is huge. This guy in particular has been in the trucking business his whole life. That's been his career. Through that time, he's made connections. In the logistics and transportation industry, it's all about getting those contracts. It's going to be companies that will use you to transport whatever their cargo is from point A to point B. Simple as put, right? So he has everything set up. He has his business plan. He's had his LLCs for a few years. He has all the contracts. He already has all the connections, everything he's going to do. And his is more specialized in government material, like large batteries, I think is what it is, that he's transporting. So everything's set up. The one thing he was missing is the capital to get it going. But he's perfect because he already had good credit. He already has his corporations established. He has everything that he needed, just didn't have access to the money. So then that's where we come in.
Okay. So basically he had the whole business set up. So let's just say he has to have access to say like $10,000 that's revolving where he's able to upfront that cost. And then he's on like, what you call them, the net 30s or net 60 to where he's going to get that money back there within 30 to 60 days. Is that?
Those are going to be more so established, like a gas card could be, something like that. But what he needs is just the business credit cards, so we use credit card stacking is the strategy that we're, using to get him funded, but he needs to buy a lot of equipment. There's special chains and straps and nets and tarps and all kinds of stuff that he needs to buy. He's going to finance the truck, right? But then he needs everything else.
Okay.
So he'll finance his truck, but then everything else to actually operate his business, his monthly day-to-day operating expenses is what he's going to use the funding for. And it's beneficial to him because it's coming through on 0% interest business credit cards.
That's right. Okay. So, let's stay on that then. So how much was he approved for?
He's in the process right now for a second round, but it's looking like he'll be coming in right around the 120 mark.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And those are all going to be zero interest for 12 months?
Between 12 and 18 months. Okay. So, and the reason why it's between 12 and 18, every card has different intro rates.
Okay.
But for every client, we find what's their interest in. What I mean by that is, are they a traveler? Do they like to travel? This guy doesn't really like to travel. He just likes to work. So travel points aren't really beneficial to him, but cash back points would be, so there's cards that do cash back incentives or, shopping points, whatever it is. So there's point cards set up for every type of industry or every type of interest that this person might have. So that's just a little extra service. We just find out what's important to them and get them cards that support that lifestyle.
Okay, so tell me this, and what are some of the credit profile of this client here that he needed to have to even start applying? Credit score. Does he need to have X amount of personal credit? Because I know that you kind of have to carry personal credit into business, and again, I don't understand the details of it, but I understand the gist of like that. You kind of have to blend the two, right?
Yeah. So the reason why I say that he has a perfect profile, and this is what a perfect profile looks like, and if somebody doesn't have this specific personal, like perfect profile, they can still get funding, but we like to bring in people that are this perfect profile because then we can guarantee they're going to get the funding. I don't want somebody to come in the program and then get denied or maybe get approved. It's not servicing them the right way. So we want them to have this perfect profile set up, but we could also guide them on how to do that. So perfect profile is a 700 and above credit score with a variety of credit profile mix, which means 4 to 6 different lines, which is credit cards, right? Maybe a mortgage mix in, couple cars, and then just 3 to 4 different credit cards already with limits over 15,000. The reason we say limits over 15,000 is because typically you'll get approved on the business side with a 3x multiple of what you have on the personal side.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. He has over, I think, like $30,000 on the personal side of available credit, and it's all below 30% utilization. So it's perfect. 20% is ideal, but 30% works.
No, that's great. I mean, I'm just thinking, individuals like that too, sometimes, if they didn't understand business funding, they would go, maybe go raise capital where they're going to give a portion of their company, for 200 grand or whatever. And, this way they can kind of keep it all to themselves. So it makes sense. Now, I want to stay on point here. So, okay, so that's the personal credit profile. Now, what about the business? It's a new business. Does he have business experience? Are these LLCs brand new? Have they been open for a year? Can you explain a little bit about how they're structured there?
So he's smart because he knew he wanted to do this eventually whenever he could. So he had already set up his LLCs a few years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. They'd already been set up. They don't need to be set up for that long, but that's even better. The minimum to be able to get, any funding is about 90 days. Have there been some that have gone through that are less? Yes, but that's what I'm talking about of, once you start really skating on that edge and trying different things, now there's no longer hey, we can guarantee you're going to get funded. If you just opened this up 2 weeks ago, but you have an amazing credit profile with an 800 score and $50,000 of available credit with 10% utilization, and great credit history with all the banks, there's probably a good chance you'll get funding, So that's why I'm saying there's always a variable, and there's not necessarily a hard set of you have to have this, this, and this. However, the reason I said I like to work with businesses who are kind of existing already, even though this guy wasn't operating on his own, it's kind of already existing because the LLCs are established. He has the good credit profile mix. He has his full business plan, which isn't, needed, but for him, he wanted to have that, and everything's already dialed in. He has his business bank accounts, even though there's not, tons of funds in there. They're opened, they're established. So the only thing missing was the knowledge of how to get the cards.
Okay. Got it. So now that he's in that process and he's going through the funding, how much work, does it take, that individual? I mean, they're starting a business, and so I know, they're focused on that. And so how are you working with them? And if you can, touch on that a little bit.
So I have 2 ways of working with people, actually 3 ways. We offer a do-it-yourself type of service, which I've recorded a full training of A to Z on how to get yourself funded. So I have another client who already knows a lot about business funding, maybe 75% of what it is and how it works, but that last 25% makes all the difference of getting approved for either a $5,000 card or a $25,000 card. So he has business credit cards, this other guy I'm talking to right now, but they're all like 5,000 or 6,000. He doesn't know how to get the higher limits. So he's a good candidate for just taking advantage of my training. He doesn't really need me for anything else because he already has the rest of the knowledge of it. This guy is utilizing more of my done for you service where we leverage our banking relationships and we actually submit the applications and set up the connections. So for him, it's minimal effort on his part. And the reason why he wants it that way is because he's on the road every day.
Okay.
He would do it himself. He's very interested and intrigued about the whole process. And once he can, be away from just working for somebody else and be more on his own, he wants to learn it so he can continue to get himself funding, multiple times a year. But this first round, we're going to do it for him so that way he can, have the time. Because if it was the other way, he just wouldn't be able to do it. That's what's held him back so long from getting everything going, is trying to learn this, but working, sometimes 6-7 days a week. There's just no time for him to figure this stuff out.
Okay. So let's try to figure out, because I want to get a little bit in the details, for me, because I want it to make sense, to some of our listeners here. On the actual capital that they're going to get approved on right now, and the process, because I'm speaking a little bit from my, just 30 days, history with you, working with you, and certain things that you're having us do, which I wasn't aware that for our credit profile to make sure that we're approved for a higher amount. Now, with the business addresses and the LLCs and where they're located and the inquiries, can you give us like 2 or 3, pointers, or I would say bullet points of like do's maybe and don'ts if someone is looking to get started, so that way before they contact you, they can kind of get started and be prepped?
Yeah. So I'll look at it from a standpoint of like good, better, and best, right? And again, not everything is a hard no. So you mentioned addresses. If someone uses their home address, is that a hard no that they're not going to get a business credit card? No, not necessarily. But then there's better and then there's best. So what we're doing is when we take somebody in, they get started with us, we review all of this stuff. What's the name of your LLC? Is it something like Hamilton's Financial Investments? It's high risk, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're investing money for somebody. So you want to get funding. What are you going to do with that? Sounds like you're going to put it into some investments. That's high risk. The bank's going to look at that as high risk. So we're going to look at that and say, hey, you might want to change the name of the LLC.
And see, like, I love that you said that, because you're really going there and evaluating from A to Z. And sometimes they might love that business name, but you're telling them, look, that's the difference of being approved from 15,000 to or 80,000. And, that decision's an easy decision to make. You're changing the business name. And so, and then I guess that's why they need to work with you. There's little things like that. I mean, even the NICS codes and things like that needs to be proper. And
for an example, that same name, right? I said Hamilton's Financial Investments. If you were to change it to something with consulting, marketing, I wouldn't say financial management, because, and again, that's going to sound like you're managing portfolios. But if you were to have something of just a consulting style corporation or a management, even property management is low risk, because you're not actually owning the homes. You're more so just managing, repairs, services, rent, collection. That's low risk. Yeah. So banks are taking every person's full profile, every business, and assigning risk classes to them. So what we do is we come through from A to Z, from the name of the corporation to the business address. For example, a lot of people like to use PO boxes, UPS stores, things like that. Well, the bank, there's a good chance they're going to Google your address.
For sure.
And when they Google it and it just says a UPS store, they can't find you. They want to know that if you're not paying this stuff, like they can get a hold of you, they can find you, they can contact you to get their money. But if it's just a UPS store, they're going to have a hard time reaching you. But so we show them where to actually get virtual addresses that when they're Googled, it looks like a full office building. It is. They'll do a Google Street View of the business and see what it looks like. UPS store, not so good. Home, maybe not so good, but at least they know where you're at, right? But it may not look like it's a very profitable business. It's just your home address, but at least they know they can find you. But then if they Google it and there's a virtual address and it's a big building and there's offices there, then it looks like, okay, this person's operating, a business.
Cameron, you're going to hate me for this right now. I just opened a UPS business address 2 days ago.
Yeah. Well,
and I didn't even think about that because I'm moving my business from California officially to Nevada, and I did it at a UPS store.
We're going to have to change that.
Oh, man. So look, hey, guys, I mean, even myself, right? It's a rookie mistake, and I knew better. I mean, now when you said it, I was like, duh. But I was just in a rush. I was like, I know I need to do this before the end of the year. And so I need to go change that, And so, again, see, these are the little things, And so, that's I like working with professionals because I'm busy doing, what I'm doing, right? So it's something that
even when you have a virtual office, there's still a business phone number to that building.
Yeah, but like you said, they're going to Google it and it's going to say UPS store.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do my home address just, for privacy and things like that. But yeah, I can use the executive suites. And I've done that before, executive suite addresses where it's, just like a co-merge office, shared space office. Yeah. And so, geez, man, I messed up.
Yeah. So those are the little details. Like the guy I was telling you about that has probably 75% of the knowledge, but needs that last 25% to kind of get him over the hump.
Yeah.
These are the things that he doesn't know, but that he's learning now from the training. Yeah. He doesn't need me to submit applications or connect him to banks or any of that stuff because he knows that stuff. But all these little tweaks of the right addresses, the right, NICS codes, right? That's the other thing. Your bank account also has this NAICS code attached to it that talks about it. Is this financial planning? Is this property management? Is this a management and consulting LLC? The reason why I love management and consulting codes and LLCs is because there's not a lot of risk to that. If you are a consulting style business, even the trucking guy we're working with has set up his bank account as a consulting style business, and they ask him when they do, when we leverage our relationship managers, they do a phone call, they do like a little Zoom call with the client and just, introduction and tell me about your business. So for him, it is I consult with other trucking companies on how to better build their business. Where's the liability there? There's no trucks involved. There's nothing involved. It's, this guy's teaching companies how to streamline their logistics company. Great. Sounds good. Low risk. Here you go. You need the money for marketing. You need the money for training. You need the money for whatever it is that you need it for. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. So, I really like this information. And one of my personal goals for 2024 is I want to understand we can call it the credit card hack for travel, right? Because I want to start using my cards a little bit better, right? To where, this card here I need to use for points so that way I can use for airlines or hotels and things like that. Because, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I know that you can kind of hack certain cards to get mileage and things like that. I just don't have the time to understand it all. And so that's something that I want to learn personally. Do you have any background on that?
Yeah. So I like to leverage websites. For example, an easy one is creditcards.com.
Okay.
That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is NerdWallet. NerdWallet's one of my favorite ones. And the reason I say to go to these versus just saying these specific cards, because cards change. Banks change, cards change, point programs change all the time. So if someone's listening to this in 5 years and I said, hey, go get the Hilton Honors card, but that one doesn't exist anymore in 5 years, then that wasn't, good. But if you go to, creditcards.com or even NerdWallet, you can search the categories you want. For example, you can go into the business credit cards and then there's a drop down. What type are you looking for? Travel, point cards. Then you can see, do you travel on a specific airline? Do you love flying with Delta? Well, hey, guess what? There's a Delta card and there's Delta lounges too, or American Express have good lounges too. I think Capital One's even building, new lounges in different, international airports. So you having those cards gets you access to go wait in there instead of waiting with everybody else at the gate. They have food and drinks and all these services in there. So if you're a traveler, leverage these websites like creditcards.com and go and find cards that will serve whatever your needs are. Somebody loves shopping, loves Amazon. Guess what? There's cards for that. There's cash back. There's percentages. I actually like the Amazon card because it gives you, cash back every month on what you spend. And
really?
It goes into your Amazon.
Okay.
It goes into your Amazon account so you can actually, purchase more. So you end up getting, I buy everything on Amazon. So, it makes sense for me because then I end up getting money back and be able to buy more stuff for.
So yeah, I need to check that out then. Yeah, for sure. And I learned it was 2 months ago, it was the BBY Card where you're able to, I forget the name of it, but you're able to have them connect to your monthly rent payments to where you can use that as like a trade line for people that need to work on their credit. So I'm giving that as advice to some people. Built. Okay, that's what it's called. Yeah, Built.
Yeah, Built.
And so again, I'm just, I'm consuming all this content on, YouTube and things like that. And so I heard that and I actually forwarded it to a friend that was looking to build his credit for trade lines and he's using it now and we'll see where it goes from there. But there's just so much information on YouTube and working with, professionals like yourself and things like that. And it's really opened up my eyes here these past couple of months that I need to pay attention more. Like again, 2024, I'm going to pay attention to my credit cards of using for travel and things like that. So I'm going to do that. Go on creditcards.com?
Creditcards.com
okay.
or NerdWallet.
Okay. I've heard, NerdWallet. Yeah. It's actually just
I like NerdWallet better. I just like their website. It's a little bit easier to use. They're both great though.
Okay.
But just speaking about credit cards versus cash, I still talk to a lot of people every day that they're not qualified to work with us because they have great credit, never missed a payment. They're super proud of it. And then I say, great, what's your credit card limits? I don't have credit cards. Well, why not? Well, I was taught to just use cash. If you don't have the cash, then you can't buy it. Well, that's great for managing your money, but that's bad because now you have no history to show the bank that you're going to be good. They're not going to give you anything. Even when it comes down to getting other, business loans and things like that, they're looking at, how you treat your credit limits. And if you have $50,000 or $100,000 available of credit, but you're only using, 10, 20% of it, and it's a good credit mix, they're going to say, man, I'll give this guy whatever he wants. Like he's going to pay me back, but if you don't have the credit cards, then, it's not going to serve you.
It's not, and it's leverage, right? And I mean, it's just like in mortgages, right? If you put a low down payment and you're able to leverage that and use, the bank's money for down payment on a house, and flip that because you're going to add value and add an ADU and you only put 5 or 10% down. I mean, that's where it makes sense, right? It's like, look, I've used, as little as cash as possible, use the bank's money. It's obviously they're going to charge you interest. But again, if you look at the exit and what you're doing with that investment, that credit card, that cash, you got to look at that return, right? And I use this analogy to some people to make it make sense for them. So I say, for example, if you had a credit card that had 0% interest, and let's just say you found out that Taylor Swift is coming in town for a concert, and say tickets, if you get on there quick, they start at $700, right? So you get on there, buy for $700 on that card. Now, 8 months or 6 months goes by. Now you're able to possibly sell that for $1,500. And you just sell it for $1,500 and it costs you $0 to make that money. And so that's the simplest way to understand leverage, right? So anybody out there, I mean, you can use them for so many different things, you know, in my example right there, right?
My brother just did that a couple months ago. There's going to be a concert here in a year from now. And he bought a bunch of, I think, Morgan Wallen tickets, you know, for whatever the intro price was. And just based on how much those tickets went for at his last shows, you know, probably made a good amount of money on that.
Yeah. And so, and again, it's, people, I mean, if you've been, you know, thinking about it, you're on the fence, you know, personally, you know, get on YouTube, start getting educated on it, you know, here in 2024, but I'm going to have your information here on the description here page here so they can contact you directly.
Well, what I wanted to add in there too is I wanted to talk about the real estate investors.
Oh, okay.
If that's okay.
So okay. So let's talk about real estate investors. So we kind of discussed this a little bit, 2 weeks ago. So you had some clients, if I remember, that were real estate investors, and they're like, well, you can't really help me, right? Because I can't use the credit cards to purchase real estate, right? I think that's what we're going over. So have you figured out on how a real estate investor can really maximize the business funding?
100%.
Okay.
Most real estate investors can still benefit from using the 0% business credit cards. There might be a couple exit strategies of real estate that you can't use it for. For example, you know, if you follow Grant Cardone, you do the whole big multifamily investing, and you're just someone that wants to, you know, be a, you know, partner and invest into someone's deal, you need to have cash. But majority of people that are getting into real estate are entering in what way? The brand new people.
Oh, I mean, it's just buying multifamily or
fix and flip, right? Like,
I mean, I guess, I mean, I personally think fix and flip right now is a little risky, but I mean,
now. But if you look over the last 10, 15 years, like, it comes in and out, right? Like sometimes, like maybe in a couple of years, fix and flip's going to be back again because everyone that bought, you know, during this time can't pay, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
These strategies aren't new.
Yeah.
They've been around for a long time. Fix and flip, even buy and hold. I have a lot of Airbnb clients, right? Because they buy the property, but it's going to take $10,000 roughly to get this thing filled up.
Yep.
You know, and then market it, and then you want to get another one. So let's look at the fix and flipper, because I have a lot of fix and flip people reaching out to me, and they want this money, and ask them what it's for. Well, I want to buy another house to flip. I'm like, okay, well, let's get clear on what this funding is. Some people think it's a $200,000 loan at 0% interest. Well, that doesn't exist, right? So then they're saying, well, how are you going to help me then? And I say, okay, well, how much is your repairs going to cost? Well, those are going to cost me $50,000 to $75,000. Great. What were you going to use to pay for that? Well, the hard money. What's your hard money at? 12% with 2 points. Okay. Well, what if you didn't need to use $75,000 of your hard money at 12% and 2 points when you can use a 0% and no points? Boom, light bulb, right? So you'll still need your hard money or your financing to buy the house, but then all of your repairs can be used with your 0% interest business credit cards at 0%. There's no reason why that house should take you 12 to 18 months to flip.
Yeah,
there's a problem. You're not making money if you're doing that. You should be in and out in 60 to 90 to maybe 120 days at the longest.
But let's just say sometimes unfortunately you do get in a deal where, you know, you have these little hangups, and I would want to be in that situation with 0% interest credit cards, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, you can look at it both ways, right? You know, so
well, let's give a solution to that. Mm-hmm. Let's not even say they're holding on to the house for a year. Let's just say they got 0% interest cards in January. They flipped a few houses throughout the year, and then now it's November. They get into another deal, but their 0% interest is ending in December. And the cards are going to start having all this interest on it. What are they going to do? Well, you can get another round of funding for another 12 to 18 months, and you can do a 0% balance transfer from those cards onto a whole new set of cards.
Yeah.
You could even open multiple LLCs and fund all of them at different times if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I guess you get a little bit more advanced there. And I like that about it too, because once you actually learn the business funding, you can use this for other businesses and things like that too, right? Let's touch on that actually. So if I start business A, get the business funding, now I start business B, with your services, I'm just taking that knowledge and then doing it myself, right?
Yeah. I don't like to do the services where I do it for you and charge you a back end percentage. I prefer to give you the knowledge. I'm a big believer in teach a man to fish versus give a man to fish.
Yeah.
Because doing the back end means I got to get all your personal information. We got to get real close. I need your socials.
How close?
EINs. Like we're moving in together. We're going to bed together.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of gray area and lines I prefer not to go into. But for the one-off cases where someone just cannot do it, then we have to get the proper contracts and everything signed to give us authority to do that. But preferably everything I'm doing is done with you, which means I'm teaching you this skill set so you can continue to get yourself funded multiple times a year, year after year. How much would you pay to get the knowledge, to get access to over several years, millions of dollars of funding for your business? What's that worth to you?
Yeah. I think you make some great points there. And, I can speak, in my experience here, just here in the last 45 days, you personally helped one of my business partners get approved for 37.5. So, I saw it with my own eyes. That's only round one.
That's just part of round one. I like to call that play my icing on the cake, right?
Yeah.
So I have a specific bank that I go to, and I know the numbers that need to be put in to get approved for those cards. So when someone starts working with me, I just start them off with that card just to show, hey, look, here's 25K, here's 50K, 40K, whatever the case is. And that actually inspires them to get going quickly.
Yeah.
If you just start working with me and if you come to me with this profile already set up, your LLCs, your credit's good, you got a good credit mix, utilization's low, you don't have any, negatives on your credit report, and you come to me with that, day one, I can get you funding. Day one. If everything's already dialed in, on our call where you enroll and sign up and get started, you will be leaving that call with funding. If you come to me, already, good to go. If we have to change a couple things, the address, the name, roughly it'll probably take like 10 days to get everything.
Okay.
If somebody's moving quickly and then they go and make all these changes, then within 10 days, you'll get funding. But the guy, your partner, he was for the most part good to go. We just had to take off a few inquiries, just to get him prepped. But we got him that 37.5, and then he had 2 back-to-back appointments with 3 different banks the next 2 days. So next week we're gonna, see what he's gonna get. But again, that's somebody with great personal credit, really high limits, already banking relationships with multiple banks, huge credit history, not just credit cards, but mortgages and homes, and everything's paid off and paid on time and no issues, multiple LLCs. When someone has multiple LLCs and his had been open for several years, he only had one that was, a year or under a year, but everything else was several years. That's why he was able to get that card right off the bat. And then I'm not going to be surprised if the rest of the funding takes him close to 150, next week.
Yeah.
That's just 3 banks.
Yeah, no, trust me. Yeah. When he called me, I was like, wow, man, good job. And I called him yesterday and he said that he went into 2 banks and he's waiting on some approvals and things like that. And so, like you said, put a fire under me too, to get my business moved over here to Nevada. Cause I'm transitioning right now from California to Nevada and all that. And again, I effed up, opened a UPS store, but I'm going to go fix that. I've been thinking about this the whole time, when we were talking here, but I'm going to fix that. And I'm excited to see what I can do with my funding too, cause it can help my business as well too. But yeah, Cameron, we'll kind of wrap it up, keep it short. And what I want to do is, people are driving sometimes or just watching on YouTube and they're doing things around the house. How can they find you? You talk right into that camera there.
The best way is going to be on Instagram. It's going to be on Instagram. That's where I do most of my business right now. I do have a website, gocreditpros.com, or just find me on Instagram, Cameron Gayed, Gayed. Look me up. You'll see everything. I post tons of free content daily, so you can just gather information, and it's just kind of focused around business funding, credit, and just overall business principles.
And what should they, if they're going to send you a direct message, what word should they DM you, so that way you can kind of figure out from where you're, these people are
just funding.
Funding, okay.
Just send me a message, tell me funding, you need funding, whatever the case is. I'm very responsive on there all the time. I'm on my phone talking to people.
So is it, are you outsourcing these things, or are you actually,
I will be, but
wow, you're actually, you're actually responding. Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge too,
Yeah.
It's like, I can't stand those chat bots sometimes, and I'm doing things online, and I'm
people think it's a chat box, and then I'll send them a voice message, and they're like, wow, it's really you. I'm like, yeah, I want to help you.
Yeah.
And I'll do it for as long as I can eventually. And it's already, it's already growing to where it's getting tough, but it's still me for now.
Yeah. And again, too, and I want to, and I think I appreciate that too, because I know we have a lot of conversations here when we're driving. I'm asking you questions and things like that. And I like that I'm able to reach you and things like that too. And so I think it's a perfect time, because I know other individuals, it could be in any business, right? Sometimes they're just busy, right? And they don't have the time, and then you're talking to their partners or whatever. And so I like that, this is the one-on-one, and, congratulations on success and all that too, as well too. Because I know we met about a year and a half ago before I moved to Vegas, and you've been showing me around and things like that. So I want to say thank you as well too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this up here. But my name is Hamilton Don Mello. This is a Don Mello zone. We're going to talk business, everything real estate. If you like what you're hearing, click the like button, subscribe. We're going to have some more content coming out here in 2024. But thank you for listening, and we'll see you in 2024. Peace.